Hello everyone. Good evening Priyanka ma'am and welcome to this session CA and CMA final aspirants.
Thank you. Welcome to the students. This is a live session for CA final students, corporate law students. Welcome to you all. And today's topic is answer writing in examination. We are going to see some strategies using which you can like score good mark in your examination. You can score like exemptions in your paper. There are students who come to me with the complaint that they lack with just one or two number in aggregate, and due to which they have to repeat a particular whole group, and that is only because that is not just because of your lack of knowledge, because you have cleared the exam but you had not cleared the aggregate. That means you have the knowledge, but the thing that you are lacking behind is your presentation skills. So today we are going to learn that only. So without wasting any further time, let us see that how we can write the different kind of questions in the examination, and by which examiner will going to give you some additional bonus points. So the topics that we are covering today is first is general format, that is applicable for every kind of question. If you forget what is to be written, what type of question is this, you are unable to judge this, or you forget anything, then you can follow this format for any kind of question. And then we're going to see specifically for each type of question, whether it's like a validity of statement kind of question, practical question, brief questions, case law based question, and case study based question. So we will learn that how to write answers in each of them. And will also I'm going to clear the doubt of students that many of them have about difference between case laws and case study. So we are going to discuss this, and then at the end we'll discuss a case law, which is a latest case law related to board meeting, video conferencing case, on which a question has been came in a recent examination, and how the answer should be written, and how you should know that this particular question is related to that particular case law. We're going to discuss all these things. So moving forward to what is the general format that what we should follow. First of all, you need to write the law, that is the name of the act, and along with that year. Suppose it's a companies act, then you need to write Companies Act 2013, and section number, relevant section number related to which the question has been asked. If you remember the question number, it is very good, but if you don't remember, then you can write it as per relevant section of the Companies Act 2013. And if you remember the section, then you can write it as like section 173 of Companies Act 2013. And then you can write the name of the rule, that is company meeting and its meeting and power rules. So you can write it like that. Okay, so and you have to learn the name of the rule wherever it is being set to you, because at least rule number, okay, it is okay that you don't remember that, but name of the rule is very important to learn. So at least these three things you need to mention in your answer, and then you can write the legal provision from the next line, whatever the question has asked. And then you need to write in the second paragraph the fact of the case, that is brief description of whatever given in the question. You have to give that, and you need to show this relation of that particular case with the section number that you had mentioned above. And then if any relevant case law is there related to that particular question and that particular content, then you can write that. And at last you can write analysis and conclusion in your own words. Okay, you can write that, and it must be in your own words, and it is should be a crux of whatever you have written in above three paras, but it should not be more than 3 to 4 lines. And then the third thing, as per relevant case law, you need to write the name of the case law, but if you don't remember, you can write it as per relevant case laws. Then there are certain other important points, that is section number, that we have already discussed, that if you remember you have to mention it, if you don't remember then write it as per the section, relevant section of the this company act 2013 or SEBI act 1992, like that. And then year of the particular act is very very important that you have to learn. And you need to focus on the language of the answer. You can write it in your own language wherever it is possible, but for the legal provision you need to follow the legal language, and for the definition you need to write it as it is. So there is no exception for that. And for the language of the answer, it is like you should improve your English, because some student doesn't have that good English. And at that time when they present the answer in the examination, the examiner is unable to understand their point. So at least you should have the English in that sense, where you can write the answer in a legible manner which is understandable to the examiner. And the next thing is you need to write the legal words wherever it is applied, because with the absence of the legal words you will be getting the less mark, and that's why you are like lagging behind the aggregate thing and all. Despite of knowing everything, without using these words you will lag behind many people. And then you need to prefer write the answer in the bullet points rather than paragraph. Wherever it is necessary you can write it in paragraphs, but again you need to change the para according to this format that I had tell you. You don't need to put the headings of these. You just can do it as a first para, second para, third para. You can do it like this. So you are not required to put the heading for that. You just need to write it in a different points or different paragraphs. Then presentation matters. Again, I will come to your handwriting thing. Your handwriting should be in a legible manner. It should not be like that examiner is unable to understand that what you have written. Then the next this kind of question is like a validity kind of question. When a question comes like that, an act beyond example, it's an example question, act beyond memorandum of article is ultra virus. It's comment, or it can come like whether it is true or whether it is false. So it is like a validity of statement. So how to answer this kind of question? First of all, you need to explain the given statement in brief. So you need to explain that how the act beyond memorandum is ultra virus. Why then in the reason thing you need to mention the why it is ultra virus, what is the concept behind it, what is the doctrine of ultra virus. All these things you need to mention in the reasons of the statement validity, why you are saying that it is true or it is false. And in the third thing you need to mention the relevant provision, that is section 4 of the Companies Act, which says that memorandum, anything company cannot go beyond memorandum. So that thing you need to mention in third paragraph, where you need to mention the relevant provision, section number, case laws if there is, and related to that. Or if both of them are there, then you need to write both provision and case laws both. And if you have any example you can mention that, and if not then it's okay, there is not any compulsion. And at last you have to comment that why that statement is true or false, and according to you it is true or false and what. And you need to write it in a brief in your own words. And in this particular paragraph you need to mention a legal word. In these two paragraphs you can write it in your own words, and in conclusion thing also you can write it in your own words. Now the practical questions. Now exactly we're going to see it in these kind of question are two types: case law based question and case study based question. But I'm going to just give you a brief about how to write this kind of question. This question is like when a practical situation is given to you, where you have to analyze that whether this situation, whatever has happened, is legally acceptable or not. This kind of questions that may arise, that is a half page question that you may see. It comes around 6 to 8 mark, or maybe 10 mark or 12 mark question can also come for that practical thing. So it's like a long question. So for that you will need to mention first of all law, the section number, the name of the section, rule name, legal provision, then again the fact of the case, relevant case laws. Analysis and conclusion need to be given in the next in the different paragraphs. Analysis need to be given in a bit detail, because here the question is big. So it carries the more marks, so you have to write the answer accordingly. And then the conclusion, again 3 to 4 lines, you need to conclude whatever you have written in the question. and preferably you need to write this answer in either in a bullet form or a tabular form, because it's a long question. Long answers are there in that, mainly for 2 to 3 pages, so that's why you need to present it in a legible manner. Now this is also a very confusing kind of question, that is a brief question where the question comes for 4 to 6 marks, but you don't have much to write in that, because the content is just about 3 to 4 lines that you have. So in that kind of question, you first of all you need to write a brief introduction of the applicable section on that particular question, and then you can write the section number if you remember, and the name of the act along with year, and then you can write straight away the provision of this section and the conclusion if any part is missing. So this is a direct question, where basically only it's like a definition kind of thing, or basically it's a like a distinguished type of question. So there you just need to write section number and relevant provision, that's it. Only key points need to be written. These are like 3 to 4 marks of question, so only like main things need to be written, and in any question you don't need to write any story or anything, or focus on key point and focus on your presentation skill. Now we'll see practical question, how to write it in bit detail, where we're going to first of all see what is the difference between case laws and case study, then we'll analyze that how we have to answer each of them in examination. So case law is basically the court's judgment that actually happens. It has happened in reality, in actual life it has happened, and on the basis of these judgment, the interpretation has been used of that particular judgment, and it is further used in similar cases to solve the future cases. Okay, and you have to learn the case laws in the examination, whereas case study is like an artificial story which is made by the examiner, and we are here the examiner is testing the students interpretation skills. So you need to analyze, you need to interpret it, that which section, which case laws is applicable on this particular case study, and the case law or the case or the basically provision both can be applicable on this particular case study. So you have to write the answer accordingly, and this you don't have to write learn each and every case study for examination, because you may get a new case study every time. So you just need to go through that through your scanners and RTPs and MTPs, that what kind of question may ask and how the answer can be written. So you don't need to have so much like fear from case study. If your concepts are good, you will able to write a case study. Focus on case law more, because here you have to learn them, and on the basis of case laws only, or on the basis of section number also, the case study can come. Then we'll see how to write case laws first, and first of all you need to write the name of the case law. Okay, so the name of the case law will be mentioned here, and then we'll write the reason, or then we'll write the decision. Along with the name of the case law, you have to write the decision or the court's judgment. Then you need to write the reason or rationale behind that decision. What was the reason the court has given that particular decision? Okay, and some extra observation made by the judges, or any contradictory agreement by any other party, if it is mentioned in the case law, you need to mention this in your answer. And then you need to mention the relevant section number based on which this particular case law is depend. And then at the end you need to write your own conclusion depending upon the question which has asked. If it is a direct question, it may not be required, but if it's like a case based question, then you need to write your own conclusion, that based on this particular case, what is your conclusion for this particular case study. Okay, then how to write case study based question. Now again you have to mention the law or case law which is on based on which the case study is given. Then in the second para you need to correlate with the case study the above mentioned case law and laws. So how it is being correlated, and then your own conclusion that will be there in your own words. So here only legal language will be written in this paragraph, and these two paragraphs you can write it in your own language. Now the last thing that we're going to discuss today will be based on the will be the case law. This is a latest case law, Achintya Kumar Barua versus Ranjit, and this case law, on the basis of this case law, question has come in November 2018. So that's why I'm discussing this, that how on the basis of this case law a question has been come, and how we have to write that particular case law in the examination. So the issue in this case law was that basically the issue that was arise, that it is necessary, it is mandatory for a company to provide audio visual mean facility to the directors for board meeting. For this you have to remember section 173 subsection 2, which basically mandates the company to give this facility to director, subject to certain condition. But it gives an option to the director to attend either board meeting in the presence physically or in an electronic mode through AVM facility. So on this basis of this thing, this particular case is depends. So first we will see that what are the objections raised by the appellant. So appellant says that section 173 subsection 2 is not mandatory provision for the company to provide such facility. But what the court says in that, it says that the word may is used in this section. It will give an option to the director to choose whether he would participate in person or through audio visual means. Okay, so it is a option given to the director, and this option does not is not being given to the company. So company cannot deny the right that they have to give this option for participation of directors through AVM facility. Then they argue the second thing, that SS1 basically says that AVM option under the new act and rules should be restored to only when the facilities are provided by the company to its director. So only when the company has that facility, then only it will provide to the director. That is written in SS1. But SS1 and but the SS1 and cannot override section 173 and rules. Okay, so we have already discussed in the class that SS1, act prevails over the secretarial standards or anything. So SS1 prevails over section SS1 does not prevails over section 173 and rules. Okay, so this is the observation by the NCLAT. And the third thing that it says, basically the appellant objection was that it is not possible for the chairman to ensure that nobody is present in AVM facility except the director. Actually, this is the condition in section 173 subsection 2. If you remember that the director should only be present through AVM facility, and no other can be present in the room where the director is attending such board meeting. So basically, what the observation the NCLAT has gave, it has gave the reference of Rule 3, where the responsibility is given on the directors. So the director is also need to satisfy that the chairperson, to the chairperson, that nobody except him is participating the meeting through AVM facility. So basically, it is the duty of the director as well to ensure to the chairperson that nobody is attending the meeting other than him. So on the basis of all these things, the judgment came where the NCLT says that it is mandatory and the companies have to provide AVM facility for the participation in board meeting to the director if they ask for it. So it's a mandatory thing for the company, and company cannot just override it. Now, why this judgment is given? Because NCLT has said that this new act and rules has been introduced in the interest of the company and both for the directors, and we cannot ignore this act for benefit of any person, and it's a progressive step. It is basically introduced by the companies act by the government to ensure that the earlier issue can be resolved and easily avoided. What were the earlier issues? That is like non-participation, wrong recording. That was the issues that was faced by the company. So to overcome that, this AVM facility came. So this was the case law, and on the basis of which this question has came in the examination, under which the question let us read the question what is given. It says MS OPC Limited at its forthcoming board meeting decided that it will not provide the directors with a one second with the facility of participation in the said meeting through electronic mode, and can the director insist on attending the meeting through such mode? Decide as per the provision of Companies Act. Will your answer will be differ if director participates in the board meeting through electronic mode from his end, even if the company does not provide such facility? It is for 4 marks. So first of all, you need to analyze what has been asked in the question. So in the question it says that the company is not providing the AVM facility to the director, but director is insisting the company to do so, and whether the company has to provide it, and if the company is not providing it, can director can organize it on his own. So this is what the question is about. Now, in this, it is basically given that it is the same thing is given here, and you just now have to see that how the answer is being formed. So this basically this question is related to the same case law. Here you just need to focus how this particular case law is returned in short, in crux, and in a right and presentable manner in the examination. So first here the introduction is given where the name of the case law is written, name of the case law, then relevant section number, and this here you can see this is the judgment of NCLT. Apart from that, they have written the reasons for that decision, and then they have written the observation by NCLAT. So what are the observation made by NCLAT that we had already discussed in this points here? So they have written these 3 points in crux. Okay, so they have written all the same point that we have already discussed, and then they have written the conclusion on their own. The two questions that were asked, that first the company has to provide, so it said yeah, it is mandatory for the company to provide AVM facility for the participation in board meeting to the directors if they insist. And the second question, that can the director can hold it on their own? So the answer was no. So obviously because it becomes redundant, because the company has to provide it mandatorily, so there is no question that the director will hold it on their own or not. So we are done with this particular concept, and now just I'm going to give you a brief that what we have in our classes. In our classes, we have covered the entire syllabus with the relevant case laws that you have seen, and like that we use the relevant case laws for each and every topic that we have, and with all latest amendments, I cover each and every topic, and all the lectures are the fully amended. And if even if after recording, if any amendment come, we conduct the extra classes for covering the amendments. And our module, our notes will cover entire module along with RTPs and MTPs, and the study that we focus on is a conceptual basis study, and we don't focus on ratification kind of thing. We focus on that at the end of the lecture only, everything is in your head, in your tips. And we practice the practical questions with solution. I provide the practical questions, the practice questions to you, and also will tell you in along with every chapter that how to write the answers, and how what kind of questions may come in your examination. And for CA final student for November 20, our course will be completed by 15th October. And for CMA final, our course will be completed by 30th October. Okay, and there is nothing to worry regarding course completion for upcoming exam for May 21 or June 21 students. Okay, and our strategies are totally exam oriented, but we also focus on teaching you conceptually, because my idea is to make your concepts stronger, so that you can yourself prepare attempt better in your examination. And notes will be provided by Superprofs. So thank you so much. For trial lecture, you can contact Superprofs.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. So guys, if you have any query or any question, you can ask and you can drop your query on support@superprops.com, and we will connect you with the ma'am, Priyanka ma'am, and she will give you answers of your questions. So thank you ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.